Imagine a world without cities, without writing, without the wheel. A world of hunter-gatherers, living in small, nomadic bands. For decades, this was our unwavering picture of the deep past. We believed that complex society, monumental architecture, and organized religion were born only after humanity settled down to farm. But what if that story was wrong? What if the revolution that sparked civilization wasn't agriculture, but something else entirely? In 1994, on a wind-swept hill in southeastern Turkey, a discovery was made that would force us to tear up the old textbooks and start again. A German archaeologist, Klaus Schmidt, acting on a hunch from earlier surveys, began to investigate the hill known locally as Göbekli Tepe, or Potbelly Hill. As his team brushed away the millennia of accumulated soil, they didn't find the medieval cemetery others had suspected. They found the top of a massive, finely dressed limestone slab. Then another, and another. Soon, a giant T-shaped pillar stared back at them from the dawn of time. This was no simple grave marker. This was something else, something impossibly old. Welcome to Göbekli Tepe, the site that hacks our timeline of civilization. What Schmidt and his team uncovered was a sprawling complex of megalithic circles, a stone sanctuary that predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, and the Great Pyramid of Giza by 7,000. Radiocarbon dating places its construction around 9,600 BCE, a staggering 12,000 years ago. This wasn't built by settled farmers. It was built by people of the pre-pottery Neolithic era, people we had long assumed were incapable of such a monumental undertaking. The site sits at the northern edge of the Fertile Crescent, the very region where the agricultural revolution would later take root. But here it seems, the temple came first. The heart of Göbekli Tepe is its series of circular and oval enclosures. The oldest, like the famous Enclosure D, are the most spectacular. At their center stand two enormous, monolithic T-shaped pillars, towering up to 5.5 meters tall. These central pillars are themselves encircled by smaller, similar pillars, embedded in stone walls. These pillars aren't small, crude stones. Some weigh over 16 tons. They are stylized representations of human figures, with abstract arms carved along their sides and hands pointing towards the navel. They are silent, headless giants, gathered in a permanent stone assembly. The engineering is mind-boggling. These hunter-gatherers quarried the pillars from a limestone plateau hundreds of meters away, using nothing more than flint points and stone hammers. They then had to transport these multi-ton behemoths to the summit of the hill and hoist them into position. All of this was achieved without the wheel, without metal tools, and without domesticated beasts of burden. The sheer manpower and coordination required suggests a level of social organization previously thought impossible for this period. It implies a shared vision, a powerful belief system that could unite disparate groups to work on a project spanning generations. And these pillars were not left blank. They are covered in a breathtaking menagerie of animals, carved in stunning low and high relief like a prehistoric graphic novel. We see snarling foxes, charging boars, prowling lions, sinister scorpions, and powerful vultures. These aren't the gentle herbivores that would later be domesticated. This is a world of dangerous, wild predators and scavengers, a world of potent symbols and powerful forces. The artistry is sophisticated, capturing the essence of each creature with confidence and skill. It's a window into the minds of our distant ancestors, a glimpse into the symbolic world they inhabited. One pillar in particular, Pillar 43 in Enclosure D, has captured the imagination of researchers. It is famously known as the Vulture Stone. It features a dense collection of symbols, dominated by a large vulture. Below it, a headless human figure is depicted, possibly representing death. The pillar is crowded with other creatures and abstract signs. Some researchers have proposed a bold and controversial interpretation, that this is not just art, but a sophisticated astronomical record. The theory suggests the animals on the pillar correspond to constellations, and their arrangement maps the sky at a specific moment in time. Proponents of this idea argue it commemorates a catastrophic comet impact around 10,950 BCE, an event known as the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, which triggered a sudden return to Ice Age conditions. Is it settled? Not yet. The theory is highly debated, and many archaeologists remain skeptical, preferring to see the carvings as mythological or shamanic narratives. But what is undeniable is that these builders were watching the heavens. The central pillars in some enclosures appear to be aligned with astronomical events, suggesting a deep connection between this sacred place and the cycles of the cosmos. For years, the prevailing story was that Göbekli Tepe was a cathedral on a hill, a temple only, a place of pilgrimage where nomadic bands would gather for ritual and feasting. The evidence for this is abundant. Vast quantities of animal bones, primarily from wild gazelle and aurochs, show signs of massive feasts. Pilgrims came, feasted, and then, it was thought, they left, returning to their nomadic lives. The temple was a place apart from daily life. But recent discoveries are beginning to paint a much more complex picture. Excavations in the 2024 to 2025 seasons have turned up something revolutionary: evidence of living quarters. Archaeologists have uncovered rectangular buildings with compacted clay floors, post holes, and hearths. Alongside them, a wealth of domestic artifacts, tools for everyday life, grinding stones and pestles, suggesting the processing of wild grains, flint sickles for harvesting wild grasses, and vast amounts of plant remains and animal remains, not just from feasting, but from daily subsistence. This changes everything. It means people were not just visiting, they were staying for extended periods. Göbekli Tepe was less a remote shrine and more a bustling hub. People lived around it, worked in it, and returned to it. It was a settlement, and the art keeps leveling up. In 2023, a stunning discovery was made in an area now called Special Building D. A life-size limestone boar measuring 1.35 meters long and 0.70 meters high was found sitting on a stone bench, flanked by other carvings. But this was no ordinary statue. For the first time, there was undeniable proof of color. Traces of red pigment, black pigment, and white pigment were found on its surface. Its tongue was painted a vivid red. We had long suspected these ancient monuments were once brightly colored, but now there's proof. It transforms our vision of the site from a world of bare stone to a vibrant, painted landscape. The revelations continued. This year, nestled in a trench wall between Enclosure B and Enclosure D, a nearly life-sized human statue surfaced. At 2.3 meters tall, its head and torso are sharply defined, with an expressive, realistic face that stares out at us across 12 millennia. The figure is depicted clutching its phallus, a recurring theme in the art of this period. This find sparked global buzz, as it is one of the most impressive and realistic depictions of a human from this era ever found. Each new discovery adds another layer of complexity and sophistication to the people who built this place. And yet, for all these incredible finds, we are only just beginning. Only about 10% of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed that what we see on the surface is just the tip of the iceberg. Archaeologists estimate there are at least 150 years of work remaining. At least 15 more megalithic enclosures lie buried beneath the hill, waiting to be uncovered. And some of these may be even older. There are hints of one structure that could possibly date back as far as 15,000 years, pushing the origins of monumental construction even deeper into the Ice Age. Furthermore, Göbekli Tepe is not alone. It is the center of a whole constellation of contemporary sites spread across the region, a network now called the Taş Tepeler, or Stone Hills. Nearby sites like Karahan Tepe, Mendik Tepe, and Çakmak Tepe feature their own T-shaped pillars and unique carvings. This wasn't an isolated phenomenon. It was a widespread cultural revolution, a shared world of belief and expression that spanned a vast landscape. So what's the headline? The world's oldest temple is starting to look like the world's first town, a place where the need for communal ritual may have been the catalyst for settlement. The sheer effort of building Göbekli Tepe may have forced people to stay, to organize labor, and to develop new ways of securing food, perhaps setting the stage for the domestication of plants and animals. It flips the old narrative on its head. Perhaps civilization didn't invent religion. Perhaps religion, the shared need to build, to gather, to make sense of the cosmos, invented civilization. It was a cradle of community, of ritual, of art, of sky watching, and of food production. The story of Göbekli Tepe is the story of humanity itself, constantly being rewritten with every brushstroke of an archaeologist's trowel. It is a profound reminder that there are still great mysteries buried beneath our feet, and that we are just scratching the surface. The first chapter of human civilization has just begun.
For centuries, the Amazon has guarded its secrets with a jealous intensity. It is a realm of myth, a vast, green ocean of life that has captivated and confounded outsiders for generations. Explorers, driven by tales of golden cities like El Dorado, plunged into its depths, searching for evidence of great civilizations. Most found only impenetrable wilderness, and their stories of grand settlements were often dismissed as fever dreams or exaggerations. The prevailing view became that this environment, seemingly so untamed and hostile, was simply incompatible with large-scale, organized human society. The jungle, it was believed, always won. But what if the jungle wasn't erasing history, but merely hiding it? What if the greatest secret of the Amazon wasn't a city of gold, but a civilization of earth and ingenuity, waiting silently beneath the leaves? The key to unlocking this secret lies not in a machete, but in light. The technology is called LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. It is, in essence, a way to see through the forest. From an aircraft flying high above, a specialized sensor fires millions of laser pulses towards the ground every second. These pulses travel down, striking the first thing they encounter. Many reflect off the dense upper canopy of the rainforest. But crucially, some find their way through the gaps, reaching the forest floor before bouncing back to the sensor. By measuring the precise time it takes for each pulse to return, scientists can create an astonishingly detailed three-dimensional map of the terrain. This digital information, known as a point cloud, contains everything: every tree, every branch, every leaf. With powerful algorithms, researchers can digitally strip away the vegetation, layer by layer, as if peeling back the jungle itself. What remains is a perfect, unobstructed view of the ground below, a ghost image of the Earth's true surface, revealing every mound, every depression, every subtle, man-made feature hidden for centuries. In 2024, a team of international researchers deployed this technology over a 600 square kilometer stretch of the Upano Valley in eastern Ecuador, an area long suspected of holding ancient secrets, but too dense to survey effectively. As the data from the flights was processed, the first hints of something extraordinary began to emerge. It was not a single, isolated settlement. In a stunning revelation, the laser technology found not one, but at least 15 distinct, interconnected urban centers, all buried beneath the jungle. A hidden world, planned, built, and lived in for centuries, was suddenly visible in its entirety for the first time. The sheer scale was breathtaking. The LiDAR scans unveiled the earliest and largest known urban complex in the entire Amazon basin. As the digital forest vanished, an architectural landscape of staggering complexity appeared. More than 6,000 earthen platforms emerged from the data. These were not random hills or natural formations. They were deliberately constructed rectangular mounds, often grouped together in clusters of 3 to 6. These clusters formed distinct neighborhoods, arranged in geometric patterns around central, open spaces, plazas that would have been the heart of community life. The cities were not monolithic. They were sprawling, low-density urban areas, a form of ancient garden urbanism that integrated the built environment with the natural one. Even more remarkable was how these cities were connected. A vast, intricate spiderweb of causeways links the 15 urban centers, some stretching for over 25 kilometers. These were not simple footpaths. The roads were built for the rainforest, wide, straight, and engineered. They were raised on earthen embankments to stay above the seasonal floodwaters and flanked by drainage channels, a sophisticated solution to travel and transport in a wet, challenging landscape. This network demonstrates a level of regional planning and social cohesion previously thought impossible for ancient Amazonian cultures. It speaks to a shared identity, a political or economic union that bound these disparate cities into a single, functioning society. So what was life like in these lost cities? The platform mounds formed the foundations for their world. Excavations confirm that these were the bases for homes, temples, and public buildings. By raising their structures, the inhabitants protected themselves from moisture, pests, and flooding. The platforms are not random hills. They are built spaces, carefully constructed with packed earth to create stable, dry ground for their communities. On top of these, they built their houses, likely from wood and thatch, creating neighborhoods where families lived and worked. The larger platforms, often surrounding the central plazas, probably supported ceremonial buildings or the residences of chieftains, anchoring community and ritual life. At their peak, these cities were alive with movement and exchange, the plazas bustling with markets and public gatherings. A society of this scale required a reliable food source, and the LiDAR data reveals how they achieved it. Surrounding the urban centers is a vast, managed agricultural landscape. The inhabitants engineered their environment to feed their population. They built extensive drainage canals to manage the region's heavy rainfall and created raised fields and agricultural terraces on the hillsides. This wasn't simple farming, it was landscape domestication. Soil analyses from excavated areas show evidence of deliberate landscape modification to create dark earth, a highly fertile anthropogenic soil that sustained intensive cultivation for centuries. This integrated system of farms, roads, and residences forms one coherent system, a testament to their deep understanding of Amazonian ecology and their ability to shape it to their needs. Perhaps the most profound discovery is the sheer antiquity of this civilization. Radiocarbon dating of pottery and other materials found during excavations places the start of this urban network at around 500 BC. This means these cities were flourishing at the same time the Maya were building their first temples in Central America, and Rome was still a young republic. Incredibly, these places were inhabited continuously for nearly 2,000 years, finally declining around 600 AD for reasons that are still unclear. This timeline is revolutionary. It proves that complex urbanism in the Amazon is not a recent phenomenon. These societies predate other well-known complex Amazonian societies, like those that built the large earthworks in the Llanos de Mojos, by a full millennium. Their scale rivals, and in some cases exceeds, many towns of the Old World in the same era, forcing a complete re-evaluation of the development of civilization in the Americas. While LiDAR provides the map, archaeology provides the proof. For decades, archaeologists like Stephen Rothstein, who led the recent study, have been excavating small sections of this landscape, finding tantalizing clues. But without the big picture, the true significance of their finds was impossible to grasp. Now, the technology and the fieldwork have converged perfectly. On the ground, excavations align with what the lasers reveal. Every trench dug into a platform or a causeway reinforces the big picture of an organized, engineered landscape. The artifacts unearthed tell the story of the people. Pottery styles and tools, found in stratified layers, confirm continuous occupation over centuries. Standardized forms in ceramics hint at craft specialization and widely shared cultural norms across the different cities. Microscopic use-wear analysis on stone tools and pottery edges points to the everyday work of processing food, farming, and building. The quiet, consistent labor that sustained a civilization for 2 millennia. This discovery fundamentally shatters the long-held myth of the Amazon as a pristine, untouched wilderness, a place where humanity could never truly tame nature. The opposite is true. This was a built environment, a neotropical paradise that was shaped and managed by human hands for thousands of years. The pristine forest we see today is, in many places, a garden gone wild, growing on the foundations of a forgotten civilization. This evidence challenges our very definition of what a city can be. It proves that indigenous people built diverse, sophisticated, and sustainable urban civilizations across the Amazon, long before European conquest arrived and tragically disrupted these ancient worlds. The story of the Amazon is not one of absence, but of a profound and ancient human presence. And with new technologies like LiDAR, we are finally learning to read the incredible history written into its very soil. Of all the organs in the human body, the brain is among the first to vanish after death. Composed of roughly 75% water, rich in fats and self-digesting enzymes, it is exquisitely designed for life, not longevity. Under normal conditions, the process of autolysis begins within minutes, and the entire structure typically liquefies into an unrecognizable slurry within days or weeks. It is biological clockwork, a rapid return to simple organic matter. This fundamental truth of neuroscience and forensic science has long been an accepted boundary for archaeologists. Soft tissue, especially neural tissue, simply does not last. And yet, this boundary is being completely redrawn. As of March 2024, a landmark global survey has systematically cataloged over 4,400 preserved ancient human brains. This is not a collection of dubious claims or historical anecdotes. This is a meticulously compiled archive of physical evidence, each entry representing a biological impossibility that somehow came to be. Here is the record. Published in the prestigious journal Royal Society Open Science, the paper by Dr. Alexandra L. Morton Hayward and her colleagues at the University of Oxford represents the first ever global audit of this phenomenon. For years, reports of preserved brains were scattered across obscure journals and museum archives, often treated as isolated curiosities. This project unified them into a single, massive data set, allowing scientists to move from asking if this happens to how and why. The audit reveals a breathtaking scope. These impossible brains have been found on every continent except Antarctica. They span an immense timeline, with the oldest specimens dating back over 12,000 years, deep into the Pleistocene epoch, and the most recent from just a few centuries ago. This proves that the preservation of complex neural tissue is not a fluke event tied to one specific location or time period. It is a widespread, repeatable process that occurs far more often than anyone had previously assumed. The question is, what are the mechanisms that can halt the brain's rapid decay? The research identifies 4 major pathways. The first is desiccation. In extremely arid environments, such as deserts or well-sealed tombs, rapid water loss can halt the enzymatic and microbial activity that drives decomposition. The brain shrinks and hardens, becoming a stable, mummified version of its former self. The second pathway is freezing. In permafrost or glacial ice, the brain is essentially kept in a state of suspended animation. The extreme cold acts as a perfect preservative, stopping all biological processes indefinitely, much like a specimen in a laboratory deep freezer. Third is waterlogging, most famously seen in the bog bodies of Northern Europe. In these unique environments, the water is highly acidic and depleted of oxygen. This anaerobic setting prevents the growth of common bacteria, while chemical compounds in the peat, known as tannins, effectively tan the soft tissues, preserving them with a characteristic dark brown coloration. The fourth and perhaps most intriguing mechanism is mineral stabilization. This can happen in 2 ways. One is saponification, where the brain's fats convert into a waxy soap-like substance called adipocere in moist anaerobic conditions. But a newly documented process involves metal ions. Here, dissolved metals in the soil, like iron, infiltrate the tissue and form stable chemical bonds with proteins. This process, called cross-linking, essentially fixes the proteins in place, creating a durable molecular scaffold that arrests decay from the inside out. One case from the archive is so extraordinary, it demands a closer look. Discovered in a medieval churchyard in Belgium, this brain is roughly 1,000 years old. But unlike a dried or frozen specimen, it was found still wet, remarkably pliable, and stained a deep orange-brown color. It was this specimen that provided the key to understanding metal ion stabilization. The distinctive orange hue was a clue. Analysis confirmed it was caused by iron oxides. The research team, led by Morton Hayward, documented a process of iron-driven cross-linking that had stabilized the brain's proteins, effectively locking the tissue structure in place before it could decompose. The unique geochemistry of the burial environment, rich in iron, had arrested decay at a molecular level. This single case proved that specific local soil conditions can create a perfect storm for preservation. But proving it required a formidable array of modern analytical techniques. To build an unassailable case, the scientists deployed a multi-pronged analytical assault. First, to confirm the age, they used accelerator mass spectrometry for radiocarbon dating. By measuring the ratio of radioactive carbon-14 to stable carbon-12 in a tiny sample, they could confidently place the individual's death in the medieval period, aligning with the archaeology of the churchyard. Next, they used Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, or FTIR, to probe the tissue's chemical bonds. This technique shines infrared light on a sample and measures which frequencies are absorbed. The resulting spectrum is a chemical fingerprint. The ancient brain spectrum showed clear peaks corresponding to amide bonds, the fundamental links in proteins, confirming that the original protein structures were still present. To identify exactly which proteins had survived, the team turned to liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry, or LC-MS proteomics. This powerful method separates complex mixtures of proteins and weighs their constituent fragments with incredible precision. The analysis identified thousands of peptides that matched specifically to human neural proteins, such as collagen and neurofilaments, providing definitive proof of the tissue's identity. The brain is also rich in lipids, or fats. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry, or GCMS, was used to analyze these. The technique separates vaporized lipid molecules and identifies them by their mass. The resulting lipid profile from the ancient sample was a clear match for that of modern brain tissue, and distinctly different from the lipids found in the surrounding burial soil. To visualize the tissue's physical integrity, they used scanning electron microscopy, or SEM. By bombarding the sample with a beam of electrons, they could generate incredibly detailed, high-magnification images of its surface. These micrographs revealed preserved microstructures, including features consistent with the long, fibrous axons of nerve cells. The cellular architecture was still there. Finally, to confirm the role of iron, they used X-ray fluorescence, or XRF. This non-destructive method identifies the elemental composition of a material. The analysis confirmed that the tissue was heavily infiltrated with iron, providing the final piece of the puzzle for the metal stabilization theory. Throughout this entire process, a rigorous chain of custody was logged, tracking each sample from the moment of excavation to its final analysis. This documentation is critical for ruling out contamination and ensuring the scientific integrity of the results. Skepticism, after all, is a healthy and essential part of the scientific process. So, are these thousands of samples really brains? The evidence is overwhelming. In study after study, researchers address this question head-on. They compare the chemical and structural signatures of the ancient samples not only to modern human brain tissue, but also to the sediment in which they were found. The results are consistently clear. The protein profiles, the lipid fingerprints, and the preserved microstructures all match neural tissue, not dirt, clay, or plant matter. Furthermore, the radiocarbon dates of the brains consistently align with the archaeological context, the stratigraphy of the soil layers, and the age of associated artifacts. With identity confirmed, the next question is, what can this ancient tissue tell us? The possibilities are astounding. These are not just inert relics. They are biological archives. Proteomics analysis has already begun to reveal disease markers. In some specimens, scientists have found elevated levels of proteins associated with inflammation and glial cell response, suggesting the individual may have suffered from an injury or infection affecting the central nervous system. In others, there are tantalizing hints of protein aggregates that bear a resemblance to those found in modern neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, opening a new field of paleoneuropathology. The brains also contain clues about diet and environment. Stable isotope analysis measures the ratios of elements like carbon and nitrogen, which reflect the types of plants and animals a person consumed. Lipid residue analysis can identify the specific fats preserved in the tissue, matching them to known food sources, distinguishing between a marine-based diet and one centered on terrestrial agriculture. These are direct biochemical snapshots of ancient lives. The global audit of over 4,400 brains has fundamentally changed our understanding. From desiccation in arid tombs and freezing in Arctic burials, to waterlogging in anaerobic bogs and mineral templating in metal-rich soils, we now know that brain preservation is not a singular anomaly. It is the outcome of a predictable, repeatable set of geochemical and environmental conditions. The bottom line is this: the evidence, authenticated by a suite of peer-reviewed, reproducible methods, is definitive. Thousands of ancient human brains exist. They are waiting in museum drawers and archaeological archives around the world. These are arguably the most personal, profound artifacts we can ever hope to study. The very organs that held the memories, thoughts, and experiences of ancient lives. This is not speculation or theory. It is a new frontier in archaeology, built on proof you can measure, image, and reproduce. The story of our ancestors is not just written in stone and bone, but is also chemically encoded in the very tissue that made them who they were.
In the study of ancient civilizations, physical evidence is the ultimate arbiter. It separates verifiable history from myth and legend. For decades, the origins of Chinese civilization have been traced through pottery, settlements, and fragmented texts. But in 2024, a series of discoveries provided a new, tangible benchmark, pushing the timeline of complex ritual society back with irrefutable clarity. In the vast grasslands of Inner Mongolia, archaeologists unearthed 3 jade dragons from the Neolithic Hongshan culture. This discovery marked the largest number of such high-status artifacts ever found in a single year. It was not a random find, but the result of meticulous, long-term investigation into one of China's most enigmatic prehistoric cultures. These objects are not mere decorations. They are data points, carved from stone, that challenge our understanding of the past. This is physical proof, not theory. The location of this landmark discovery is the Yuanbaoshan site, located in Chifeng's Aohan Banner. This region is a known heartland of the Hongshan culture, a society that flourished between 4700 and 2900 BC. The excavation was a carefully planned operation, conducted by the Inner Mongolia Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology. Beginning in April 2024, the team undertook a 4-month excavation. The work was systematic and painstaking. Archaeologists used modern techniques, including ground-penetrating radar, to map the subterranean structures before a single shovel broke the earth. Each layer of soil was carefully removed, sifted, and documented, preserving the exact context in which every artifact was found. This stratigraphic control is crucial, as an object's position in the ground is as important as the object itself. It was within this controlled environment that the team uncovered the largest Hongshan jade dragon ever recorded. The moment of its discovery was a quiet culmination of months of effort. As the surrounding earth was brushed away, the unmistakable coiled form of the dragon emerged, its surface gleaming after 5 millennia in darkness. Back in the laboratory, its precise dimensions were documented. The artifact measures 15.8 centimeters long, 9.5 centimeters wide, and 3 centimeters thick. These are not abstract figures. You can measure it. Each measurement provides a concrete data point. The size and weight of the object speak to the material resources required, while the precision of its form demonstrates a mastery of jade working techniques. This single object proves the scale and sophistication of late Neolithic craftsmanship. The dragon was not an isolated find. It was part of a much larger context. The excavation centered on a massive stone burial mound, a structure that, according to a press conference on September 13, 2024, by director Sun Jin-song of the Institute, is the largest late Hongshan stone burial mound yet found in the region. These mounds, known as Jishizhong, were not simple graves. They were complex, monumental structures built to house the elite and their most precious ritual possessions. From this single stone burial mound, archaeologists recovered over 100 jade artifacts. This trove, documented since June 2024, provides an unprecedented snapshot of the Hongshan ritual toolkit. The sheer quantity and variety of items found together is extraordinary. The collection includes a stunning array of forms. There are jade rings, perfectly circular and smooth. There are bai discs, symbolic objects thought to represent heaven. There are zoomorphic carvings, including delicate silkworms, a possible nod to early silk production, and powerful owls, creatures often associated with the spirit world. Each piece, from the simplest ring to the most complex dragon, was crafted with immense skill and purpose. The artifact variety fills critical gaps in our knowledge of how jade was used in ritual contexts. To understand these artifacts fully, science must look inside the stone itself. Mineral analysis, using techniques like X-ray fluorescence and Raman spectroscopy, was conducted to determine the exact composition of the jade. The results were conclusive. The material is tremolite, a specific type of nephrite jade. This identification is significant because the geological signature of the tremolite was traced to a specific source, the mines of Shuyan in modern-day Liaoning province, hundreds of kilometers away. This is not speculation. The chemical fingerprint of the jade from the tomb matches the fingerprint of the jade from the Shuyan quarries. 3 Inner HTML. The artifacts display a characteristic luster, with colors ranging from a pale yellow-white to a rich dark green. This material evidence proves the existence of established, long-distance sourcing networks 5,000 years ago. Raw blocks of precious jade were quarried, selected for their quality, and transported across great distances to be worked by master artisans. This implies a level of social organization and economic coordination far beyond that of a simple village society. It points to a refined ritual toolkit where not just the form, but the very substance of the object held deep cultural meaning. The organization of the society that created these objects is also reflected in the landscape they built. The layout of the Yuanbao Shan site is unique in Inner Mongolia and highly symbolic. It is not a random collection of structures, but a deliberately planned ceremonial complex. To the north lies the Great Circular Tomb, the stone mound where the elite were interred with their jade treasures. To the south, archaeologists identified a square altar. This specific geometric arrangement, a circular form representing heaven and a square form representing the earth, is a foundational concept in later Chinese cosmology. Its presence here, in a late Neolithic context, is profound. This proves the existence of a formalized ceremonial complex, a sacred space where rituals connecting the human, terrestrial, and celestial realms were enacted. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found in direct association with these structures confirms their age. The complex was in use approximately 5,000 years ago. Yuanbao Shan is not an anomaly. According to researcher Dang Yu from the Institute, the Qifeng region alone documents over 700 Hongshan sites. This density of settlement, of which Yuanbao Shan is a particularly grand example, proves a sustained and deeply rooted cultural system. This was not a transient culture, but a civilization that dominated this landscape for centuries. The shared iconography and ritual structures across these sites point to a coherent belief system, likely centered on ancestor worship, heaven worship, and earth worship. The influence of this civilization was not confined to its core territory. Recent discoveries are expanding the known boundaries of Hongshan culture. Far beyond the traditional core region of Inner Mongolia and Liaoning, another jade dragon was found at the Zhangjiagu site in Zhangjiakou, Hebei province. This artifact, stylistically identical to those from the Hongshan heartland, is the first of its kind ever found in Hebei. This single object proves that the distribution of these powerful symbols, and by extension, the culture's influence, extended much further than previously thought. It raises new questions about the nature of this expansion. Was it trade, cultural exchange, or migration? The question of population movement remains an active area of research. For now, the evidence collection continues, with each new find adding another piece to the puzzle. As summarized by Zhangwen Rui, another researcher involved in the project, the cumulative evidence paints a clear picture. We see a mature jade ritual system, with a standardized set of symbolic objects. We see advanced stoneworking technology, capable of sourcing, transporting, and carving one of the hardest known minerals. We see evidence of social stratification in the form of elite burials, where immense wealth was concentrated. And we see a society with a significant regional reach, whose ideas and goods traveled hundreds of kilometers. All of this was in place 5,000 years ago. There are no myths here, there are no legends or epic poems. There are just the cold, hard facts, just measurements, materials, and dates. The data is drawn from official sources, including reports from the Inner Mongolia Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology, and has been corroborated by international publications. Xinhua News reported on the discovery in 2024. Archaeology magazine confirmed the dimensions. People's Daily provided context on the dating and the site's significance. The evidence speaks for itself. The conclusion is inescapable. What we are witnessing at Yuanbaoshan and beyond is the material footprint of a complex, socially stratified, and ritually sophisticated civilization, flourishing 5 millennia ago. A 5,000-year ritual civilization proven. Summer 2024. In the world of archaeology, some announcements are seismic, shifting our understanding of the past. This was one of them. Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, in collaboration with international research teams, announced the formal documentation of 96 previously unrecorded tombs. This wasn't a single discovery, but the culmination of a systematic, large-scale survey across 2 distinct regions of the country. 33 of these tombs were located in the arid, rocky landscapes of southern Egypt, the historical region known as Upper Egypt. Here, tombs were often hewn directly into the limestone cliffs that line the Nile Valley. The remaining 63 were discovered in the fertile alluvial plains of the Nile Delta. In this region, the high water table and shifting silt deposits make preservation and discovery a unique challenge, often requiring different architectural solutions like mud brick mastabas. But the number 96 isn't just a headline, it's a data set. It represents a monumental effort in modern archaeological science, a move away from treasure hunting and towards systematic data collection. To understand its significance, we must first look at the methodology. The process began in the field, under the strict protocols of the Supreme Council of Antiquities. Field teams meticulously mapped the precise GPS coordinates of every tomb entrance using RTK, or real-time kinematic, systems for centimeter-level accuracy. Inside, they logged the stratigraphy. This is the careful documentation of soil layers, or strata. Each layer represents a different moment in time, a flood, a period of abandonment, or the construction of the tomb itself. By reading these layers, archaeologists can reconstruct the history of the site, distinguishing original features from later disturbances. Every feature, every layer, and every artifact's position was photographed with metric scale bars and color checkers to ensure scientific accuracy and true-to-life color representation in later analysis. Nothing was removed without a complete paper trail. Every sherd of pottery, every fragment of bone was bagged, labeled with its exact context number, and catalogued under permits issued by the ministry. This chain of custody is non-negotiable. It ensures the integrity of the data from the trench to the laboratory. And it was in the lab that the story of these tombs began to truly unfold. Lab work followed a multi-pronged analytical strategy. Pottery seriation involved sorting ceramic fragments by shape, material, and decoration to establish a relative timeline. Numismatists performed coin typology, identifying rulers and mints to provide hard dates. Metallurgical scans like X-ray fluorescence revealed the elemental composition of metal objects without damaging them. And residue analysis on pottery used techniques like gas chromatography mass spectrometry to identify the faint chemical traces of ancient contents, oils, wine, or food offerings. This is how modern archaeology works. Physical evidence first, interpretation second. Let's look closer at the key finds. Among the most evocative finds were gold amulets. These were not mere jewelry but essential protective items placed on the deceased to ensure a safe journey into the afterlife. To verify their composition, each amulet was analyzed using non-destructive XRF, which confirmed the high purity of the gold and identified trace elements that can sometimes hint at the metal's origin. Equally important were the coins. Found within sealed burial contexts, these small metal discs are powerful chronological anchors. Coins bearing the portraits of Ptolemaic rulers and Roman emperors, with their Greek and Latin inscriptions, were meticulously read, dated, and cross-checked against established numismatic catalogs. They do more than provide a date. They are evidence of a monetized economy and demonstrate the vast circulation networks connecting Egypt with the wider Hellenistic and Roman worlds. A coin minted in Rome found in a tomb in Upper Egypt tells a story of trade, taxes, and travel. Finally, there was the painted pottery. Even after 2 millennia buried in the earth, many fragments retained their vibrant colors. These were documented under raking light, a low-angle illumination that reveals subtle surface details like brushwork and texture. Further analysis of the pigments themselves identified the minerals used, such as hematite for red and carbon for black, confirming the use of traditional local materials alongside imported ones. With all this data, the question of age is not a guess. It is a conclusion derived from multiple independent lines of evidence. The archaeological context, the specific rulers named on coin legends, and the established ceramic typologies all converge on a specific period, roughly 2,000 years ago. This was a dynamic and transformative era for Egypt, a time when it was first under the rule of the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty and later incorporated as a province of the Roman Empire. The data also revealed fascinating regional differences. The variation in burial positioning, some extended, some flexed, some crouched, the specific combinations of amulets in grave good kits, and the fundamental differences in grave architecture across the 33 southern rock-cut sites versus the 63 delta mudbrick sites proves that burial customs were not monolithic. Instead, they reflect a complex tapestry of local traditions interacting with broader Greco-Roman influences, demonstrating cultural change over both time and region, not a single uniform practice. As this data was being analyzed, another remarkable discovery was announced in September 2024, this time from Edfu, in southern Egypt. Here, at the magnificent Temple of Horus, one of the best preserved temples in Egypt, a German-Egyptian conservation mission was undertaking a painstaking cleaning of the interior ceilings and walls. As they gently removed centuries of soot and grime, they revealed the temple's original breathtaking decor. Figures of gods and pharaohs were not just painted, but were literally covered in gold leaf. Again, this isn't speculation or artistic license. It's the result of rigorous conservation documentation. The team produced high-resolution before-after imaging under controlled lighting. They conducted pigment mapping using multispectral imaging to identify the chemical signatures of the original colors, and all material analysis was recorded, peer-reviewed, and officially released by Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The evidence is verifiable and public. The implication of this discovery is precise and profound. The stark, monochrome stone temples we see today are a faded shadow of their former selves. The aesthetic of ancient Egyptian sacred spaces was brighter, richer, and far more opulent than most surviving surfaces suggest, designed to gleam and shimmer in the torchlight. In archaeology, skepticism is not just healthy, it is essential. Every major claim must be tested against alternative explanations. For the 96 tombs, could the Greco-Roman artifacts be the result of intrusive burials, where later people dug into older tombs? Or could the finds be the product of later contamination, washed or moved into the tombs over time? These possibilities were systematically addressed. The primary counter-argument is stratigraphic integrity. In many cases, the burials were found beneath undisturbed, sealed layers of soil, proving nothing had been added from above since their deposition. Furthermore, many artifacts were recovered from within sealed contexts, inside intact coffins or sarcophagi, making contamination impossible. And critically, the different types of artifacts were consistent. The coins, the pottery, and the amulets all pointed to the same time period, a practice known as cross-dating, where organic materials like wood from a coffin or linen wrappings were preserved and radiocarbon dating was applicable. Independent labs reported calibrated date ranges that were consistent with the typological dates from the inorganic artifacts. Where radiocarbon wasn't an option, such as for metal or stone, the chain of evidence remained unbroken, anchored firmly in the artifact-based typologies. The case is built on corroboration. So, what is the final conclusion? The 96 tombs, the gold, the coins, the painted pottery, and the newly revealed gilded temple surfaces at Edfu together paint a clear and compelling picture. They prove the existence of a wealthy, economically connected, and culturally evolving Egypt during the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. This is a story of regional diversity, international trade, and enduring traditions adapting to new influences. No ancient aliens or lost technologies are required to explain these finds. No mysteries, just evidence. We begin with the evidence. Not with myth, not with assumption, but with the raw, verifiable data from 210 ancient lives. These are not just abstract points on a map. They are individuals who lived and died during the Phoenician period, a pivotal era in human history spanning from the early Iron Age to the Roman conquest. Their remains, carefully excavated from archaeological sites across the Mediterranean basin, from the Levantine coast to the shores of Iberia, form the foundation of this investigation. For centuries, our understanding of the Phoenicians has been filtered through the biased accounts of their rivals, the Greeks and Romans, or pieced together from scattered archaeological finds. But now, we can ask the people themselves. Their bones hold a story, a biological record written in the language of DNA. And for the first time, we have assembled a data set large enough and detailed enough to read it with unprecedented clarity. We have their genome-wide sequences. This is a critical distinction. We are not looking at a single genetic marker like mitochondrial DNA, which tells only the story of the maternal line. We are analyzing the entire nuclear genome, billions of base pairs that carry the full inheritance from both parents. And we've sequenced them at high coverage, meaning we've read each position in the genome multiple times. This depth provides a robust, high-fidelity picture of each individual's genetic ancestry, minimizing errors and allowing us to make confident, statistically powerful comparisons between populations, both ancient and modern. This is the difference between a blurry photograph and a high-resolution digital image. These are hard numbers, quantifiable, reproducible facts that form the bedrock of our inquiry. This is an evidence-first approach. Before we tell the story, we must first establish what the data proves. Here's what the evidence proves. In this chapter, I start at the bench where history becomes biology. The journey from a silent artifact to a stream of data is a meticulous, multi-stage process, governed by the strictest protocols. It begins with selecting the right material. We target the petrous part of the temporal bone, the densest bone in the human body, or the dentin inside teeth. These are biological vaults, protecting fragile DNA molecules from the ravages of time, heat, and microbial decay. Inside a dedicated clean room, under positive pressure to keep modern DNA out, we drill to collect a tiny sample of bone powder. Less than 50 milligrams is enough, a fraction of a gram containing a library of ancient information. From this powder, we extract the fragmented, damaged DNA and build sequencing libraries. This involves chemically repairing the broken strands and attaching synthetic DNA adapters, which act like barcodes, allowing the sequencer to identify and read each unique molecule. These libraries are then loaded onto sequencers. These machines are technological marvels, capable of reading billions of DNA fragments in a single run, translating the ancient chemical code into digital data. The result? High-coverage DNA from 210 Phoenician period individuals across the Mediterranean. When we plot their genetic data, we see a complex tapestry of ancestries. The first, most fundamental question is, where did the Phoenicians come from? The historical consensus points to the Levant, the coastal region of the eastern Mediterranean. Our data confirms this. The genetic signal ties the cultural core to the Levant. Clear Levantine signatures exist, but they're limited. This is the first major revelation. While the Levantine connection is undeniable, it doesn't dominate the genetic landscape of the wider Phoenician world. This proves the Phoenician world spread mostly through ideas, technology, and cultural exchange. It was a network built on trade, not on mass migration. This finding directly challenges the traditional model of colonization, which often assumes a large-scale movement of people who replace or overwhelm the local inhabitants. The Phoenician story is far more nuanced. Look at Carthage and the Western colonies. Let's break down the evidence, region by region. We start with Carthage, the jewel of the Phoenician West, a city that would grow to rival Rome. If the city's founders and their descendants had simply replaced the local population, we would expect to see a wholesale Levantine genome, a genetic echo of Tyre or Sidon transplanted to North Africa. We don't. Not even close. The majority genetic profile of individuals buried in Carthage matches the local North African populations. This suggests a dynamic process of integration and admixture from the very beginning. The Phoenicians arrived, but they built their new world with and among the people already there. Now let's move west. In Iberia, at sites like Gadir, modern Cadiz, we see the same pattern. The individuals living in these Phoenician trading posts are genetically Iberian. In Sardinia, a hub of mineral wealth, the people in Phoenician settlements are genetically Sardinian. In Sicily, we find local Sicilian ancestries. In every case, the dominant genetic signature is local, with only a modest Levantine component mixed in. This isn't a story of conquest, that's adoption of identity. Local communities were participating in this new interconnected world. They adopted Phoenician material culture, religious practices, and economic systems. This was not a replacement of people. It was the embrace of a powerful cultural and economic toolkit. Now cross-check this with a second, independent line of evidence: stable isotopes. While DNA tells us about deep ancestry, isotopes tell us about an individual's life story, specifically where they grew up. Strontium values in tooth enamel lock onto the geological signature of the region where a person lived during childhood as they consumed local food and water. Oxygen values in that same enamel reflect the local water source, providing another geographic fingerprint. The isotopic data is overwhelming. The vast majority of individuals buried in these Phoenician sites, including those with local genetic profiles, grew up locally. They weren't migrants from the Levant. They were Iberians, Sardinians, and North Africans, born and raised. Diet isotopes add another layer. Carbon and nitrogen values show marine-rich signatures at coastal ports, confirming their participation in the maritime economy. This contrasts with more agrarian inland profiles elsewhere. The isotopes paint a picture of local people integrated into a new way of life. This independently confirms the DNA. We see local lives, rooted in their ancestral homelands, fully participating in a dynamic Phoenician maritime network. Skeletal metrics add a third line of evidence. Bioarchaeology allows us to study the physical characteristics of skeletons to understand population affinities. Cranial and dental metrics from Phoenician period sites consistently match the regional baselines. We see the normal, expected variation for a local population. The same is true for post-cranial measurements of stature and limb proportions. There is no evidence of a sudden, intrusive population with different physical characteristics. 3 independent lines of evidence, genetics, isotopes, and skeletal morphology, all point to the same conclusion. And the alphabet? The Phoenicians' most famous cultural export. It spreads exactly where the trade nodes appear, becoming the foundation for Greek, Etruscan, and Latin scripts. It spreads even when the genomes of the people adopting it stay local. That's the definition of cultural transmission. It's the spread of ideas, writing, standardized weights, and legal concepts like contracts, all adopted without significant genetic turnover. I know the pushback. This is the classic elite dominance hypothesis. Maybe the migrants were few in number, but they were a powerful elite who established control. If so, their genetic signature should be concentrated in the wealthiest, most powerful burials. The data addresses that directly. We correlated the genetic results with the archaeological context of each burial. Burials with elite goods, imported pottery, precious metals, elaborate tombs, do not cluster genetically as Levantine. In fact, some of the wealthiest burials belong to individuals with purely local North African, Iberian, or Sardinian genetic profiles. Social status is not tracking ancestry here. This dismantles the elite dominance model. Power and wealth in the Phoenician West were accessible to locals. Becoming Phoenician was a path to social mobility. None of these conclusions would be possible without unimpeachable methods. Rigorous contamination controls are non-negotiable. Every result is validated to ensure we are studying ancient people, not modern archaeologists or lab technicians. We authenticate the DNA by confirming its damage patterns, the telltale signs of age. Every key individual is directly dated using radiocarbon analysis, and secure stratigraphy locks the chain of evidence from the trench to the lab to the final result. The aggregated data set, peer-reviewed and fully reproducible, converges on one powerful conclusion. Identity is not DNA. Phoenicianness was a cultural toolkit. It was a shared language, a revolutionary system of letters, a sophisticated system of trade law, and it was adopted, adapted, and mastered by local peoples across the sea. The full author lists for the primary research are on screen. The institutions stand behind the work. The methods are published in full. The publication DOIs are on screen and linked in the description. I encourage you to verify everything. The evidence speaks, and it's decisive.
The year is 367 CE. Roman Britain, a province at the far-flung edge of a sprawling empire, is teetering on the brink of collapse. Historians call the event that tipped the scales the barbarian conspiracy, a coordinated, multi-pronged assault by Picts from the north, Scoti from Ireland, and Saxons from across the North Sea. For centuries, the narrative has been one of military failure, political intrigue, and the inevitable decay of imperial power. But what if the primary catalyst wasn't a general's mistake or a shift in tribal politics? What if the true story, the proof of what pushed Roman Britain over the edge, isn't a rumor whispered in the halls of power, but something written into the very fabric of the land itself? The definitive evidence is not found in crumbling manuscripts, but preserved year by year inside the wood. To understand this story, we must start with the evidence. This is the science of dendrochronology, the study of tree rings. Each ring represents a single year of growth. A wide ring tells a story of a good year with ample sunlight and water. A narrow ring speaks of struggle, of cold, disease, or most critically for our investigation, drought. By meticulously measuring these rings, we can build a precise year-by-year calendar of past climate conditions. Our investigation draws upon a vast network of data. We are using samples of cross-dated oak and pine, two long-lived species that serve as reliable climate proxies. These samples were gathered from across the British Isles, from the south of England through Wales and into Scotland. This geographical spread is crucial. It allows us to distinguish a localized weather event from a widespread province-altering climatic shift. The samples themselves are a treasure trove of information carefully curated and stored in archives, each piece a silent witness to history. The analysis begins in highly specialized laboratories. At the University of St Andrews Tree Ring Lab, each sample is prepared and examined. The process is painstaking. Ring by ring, under a high-powered microscope, researchers measure the width of the annual growth. Every measurement is recorded, logged, and compiled into a massive data set. This is where the raw data, the fundamental building blocks of our climate timeline, are generated. But ring width is only the first layer of the investigation. To truly understand the conditions these trees endured, we need to look deeper into their very chemical composition. For that, we turn to the Swansea Stable Isotope Group. Here, scientists analyze the stable isotopes of oxygen and carbon locked within the cellulose of each tree ring. This is where the story gets incredibly precise. The ratio of different oxygen isotopes, known as delta 18O, is directly linked to the source of the water the tree absorbed. A higher delta 18O value means the tree was getting its water from precipitation that had undergone more evaporation, a clear signal of drier, warmer conditions and, critically, less rainfall. To ensure our timeline is unassailable, the data from all these labs, including the vast archives at Queen's University Belfast, must be synchronized. This is achieved through a process called cross-dating. By matching the unique patterns of wide and narrow rings between trees from different locations, we can create a single master chronology. This process is so robust that it pushes the margin of error to effectively zero. We're not dealing with approximations, we are dealing with an absolute annual calendar stretching back thousands of years. When we focus this powerful analytical lens on the 4th century, the data is stark. The chronologies show 3 consecutive, devastating drought years from 364 to 367 CE. You can see it with the naked eye in the wood itself. The rings become suddenly alarmingly narrow. They are stacked one after another, a repeating signature of severe stress. When measured, their width is often under 0.4 millimeters, a fraction of a healthy growth ring. This isn't just one tree or one forest. This is a synchronized, Britain-wide signal, present across multiple species and sites. The isotope data confirms this picture with chilling precision. During this exact 3-year period, the oxygen isotope ratios, the delta 18O, jump significantly. As we know, higher delta 18O means less precipitation. Simultaneously, we see elevated delta 13C values. This indicates that the trees were struggling to take in carbon dioxide, closing the stomata on their leaves to conserve water. Together, these two measurements are the exact chemical indicators of extreme water limitation. The trees were starving for water. This work has been rigorously cross-verified by leading research groups, including those at Cambridge's Department of Geography under Ulf Bündgen and at Johannes Gutenberg University Mainz with Jan Esper's team, confirming the findings are robust and replicable. So, what does this scientific data mean for the people on the ground in Roman Britain? A drought severe enough to stunt the growth of ancient oaks and pines would have been catastrophic for agriculture. The province was the breadbasket of the Northern Empire, its grain surpluses essential for feeding legions on the Rhine frontier. 3 consecutive failed growing seasons would mean widespread crop stress. We see this reflected in the trees through depleted late wood density, the part of the ring that grows late in the season. For farmers, it meant withered fields, empty granaries, and the spectre of famine. Now we connect the climate data to the archaeological record. Across Britain, evidence from excavated farmsteads, documented by institutions like Historic England and MOLA, reveals a fascinating and disturbing pattern. At numerous sites, distinct abandonment layers line up perfectly with the mid-360s. These are layers in the soil that signify a sudden end to human activity. The signs of crisis are unambiguous. Large storage pits designed to hold grain surpluses were not refilled after being emptied. They were left open or backfilled with debris, a clear indication that there was no harvest to store. Coin loss horizons, the steady, accidental dropping of low-value coins that signals a thriving economy, often cease abruptly in the mid-360s. Furthermore, we find rapid departure signatures, floors swept clean, few hearth dumps, and a lack of the everyday clutter that accumulates in a lived-in space. People didn't just move away, they left quickly, taking what they could and not looking back. The stratigraphy at sites, particularly in the agricultural heartlands of eastern Britain, ties this mass exit directly to the years of the drought. The evidence paints a clear picture of systemic collapse. The environmental stress was severe enough to break the intricate supply chains that were the lifeblood of the province. Now, we can make the direct link to history. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus, our most detailed source for the period, dates the coordinated attacks by the Picts, Scoti, and Saxons precisely to the year 367 CE. The tree rings prove, with annual precision, that 3 consecutive failed growing seasons occurred immediately before and during that crisis. The environmental shock created profound scarcity. This scarcity destabilized the garrisons on the frontiers, which relied on local grain. It destabilized the markets that fed the towns, and this widespread destabilization created a power vacuum, an opportunity. It invited attack. But a skeptical mind is a scientific mind. Could there be other explanations for this data? Could the narrow rings be a purely localized phenomenon? No. The data sets are replicated across multiple regions, from southern England to Scotland. The statistical strength of this common signal is measured by a metric called the Expressed Population Signal, or EPS. For this period, the EPS value is consistently above 0.85. A rigorous threshold indicating that the chronology reflects a true, widespread climate signal, not local noise. The high inter-series correlation between samples further confirms that these trees were all responding to the same powerful, overarching environmental pressure. What about other causes of stress? Could insects, disease, or a sudden cold snap be the cause of the narrow rings? Again, the isotope chemistry rules that out. The specific combined signature of high delta 18O and high delta 13C is a classic, well-understood pattern for drought. An insect infestation that causes defoliation, or a late frost event that damages leaves, would produce a completely different isotopic fingerprint. The chemistry is clear. The trees were not being eaten, nor were they freezing. They were thirsty. Finally, are the dates fuzzy? Could there be a slight error in the timeline? No. When a tree ring sequence is anchored by cross-dating and confirmed with techniques like radiocarbon wiggle matching, the resulting chronology is annual and absolute. We are not estimating the decade, we show the exact years of the crisis. The science is unequivocal. What we have here is a powerful convergence of evidence. A team of scientists working across multiple disciplines and institutions has demonstrated the climate conflict connection in this pivotal historical case. This is not speculation. It is a conclusion built upon millions of precise measurements. It is important to state the limitations of this work. We do not and cannot assign motive to people. We cannot know the specific thoughts of a Pictish warrior or a Roman farmer. What we can do is reconstruct the environmental conditions in which they lived and made their decisions. The ring widths and the isotopes, the lab logs and the dated abandonment layers, All this evidence, when aligned, proves that a severe multi-year drought was the trigger. It created the conditions of scarcity and instability that made the barbarian conspiracy not just possible, but perhaps inevitable. History is often told through the words of the powerful, but sometimes the most profound truths are recorded in silence, waiting centuries to be read. In the case of Roman Britain's Great Crisis, the wood tells the truth.
For centuries, the silent ruins of the classic Maya civilization have posed one of history's greatest enigmas. How could a society of millions, with sprawling cities, sophisticated astronomy, and monumental architecture, simply vanish? For generations, the world's smartest people argued, proposing theories from endemic warfare and political revolution to unstoppable disease. The debate raged, fueled by fragmented archaeological clues and ambiguous hieroglyphic texts. But the answer wasn't buried in a king's tomb or carved on a temple wall. It was waiting, silently, in the dark. The evidence that solves the mystery is this: a rock. Specifically, a stalagmite from a cave deep beneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. This unassuming column of stone, formed drip by patient drip over millennia, holds a precise, unambiguous climate record. It is a natural archive, a silent witness that recorded the very rainfall that sustained, and ultimately failed, the Maya civilization. This rock proves what happened. To understand how, we must look closer. The stalagmite preserves annual growth bands, thin layers, much like the rings of a tree. Each layer represents 1 year of growth, formed as rainwater seeps through the soil and limestone bedrock above the cave. As the water drips, it deposits a mineral, calcium carbonate, building the stalagmite from the ground up, one microscopic layer at a time. This process creates a perfect chronological record, capturing the chemical signature of the climate with each passing year. The key to this record lies in the chemistry of the water itself. Rainwater contains two main types of oxygen atoms, or isotopes, a lighter form, oxygen-16, and a heavier form, oxygen-18. During periods of high rainfall, the heavier oxygen-18 is preferentially rained out of the clouds. This means the water that eventually seeps into the cave is depleted in the heavy isotope. Conversely, during a drought with less rain, the water that does manage to reach the cave is relatively enriched in the heavier oxygen-18. Scientists measure the ratio of these isotopes in the calcium carbonate of each annual band. This ratio is expressed as a value called delta O18, or D18O. It serves as a direct quantitative measurement of past rainfall. When the D18O value in a layer is low, it signifies a year of plentiful rain. When the D18O value is high, it signifies a year of low rainfall. And when it spikes and stays high across many consecutive layers, it signals a severe, prolonged drought. This is not an interpretation. It is a direct chemical measurement, a climate diary written in stone. In 2012, a multi-institutional team led by archaeologist Douglas J. Kennett of Penn State, in collaboration with researchers from institutions like ETH Zurich, set out to read this diary. Their work, published in the prestigious journal Science, presented a high-precision climate record from a stalagmite named Yakbalam, located just 1.5 kilometers from the ancient Maya site of Uxbenca. The goal was to build the most detailed timeline of climate change ever created for the Maya region. The methodology was painstaking, straightforward, and transparent. First, the team carefully cut and polished the stalagmite to reveal its internal laminae, or annual layers. They imaged these bands at high resolution to count them, creating a preliminary timeline. Then, using a computer-controlled micromill, they meticulously micro-sampled each individual band, drilling out a tiny amount of powder from hundreds of consecutive layers, each representing a single year. Each powder sample was then analyzed in a mass spectrometer, a device that measures the mass of atoms with incredible precision. They measured the D18O to reconstruct rainfall, and also measured D13C, the ratio of carbon isotopes, which provides clues about the health of the vegetation above the cave. To anchor this floating timeline in absolute calendar years, they used a different technique: uranium-thorium dating. Radioactive uranium, present in trace amounts in the water, becomes trapped in the stalagmite's crystal lattice. It then decays into thorium at a known, constant rate. By measuring the ratio of uranium to thorium at different points along the stalagmite's growth axis, the team established an absolute chronology with subdecadal precision. Where possible, this was cross-checked with radiocarbon dating of organic materials trapped in the layers. The result was an unbroken, precisely dated 2,000-year reconstruction of rainfall. The data was stunning. The record demonstrated a clear pattern of repeated, severe wet season droughts between 800 and 1000 AD. This wasn't just a dry spell. It was a catastrophic failure of the summer monsoons, the lifeblood of Maya agriculture, year after year. And this period of climate instability aligned perfectly with the timeline of the classic Maya decline. But a single cave record, however precise, is local. Could this just be a regional anomaly? To confirm the pattern, scientists turned to other archives. Parallel records from other Mexican caves in the Yucatan, analyzed by researchers like Martín Medina Elizalde and Elko Rolling, showed the exact same pattern. Sediment cores drilled from the bottom of Lake Chichencanab, famously studied by David Hodel, told the same story through the chemistry of fossil shells. Different locations, different proxies, different research teams, all converged on the same dates and the same pattern of severe, terminal drought. The climate catastrophe was not local, it was regional. When this climate timeline is laid over the archaeological record, the connection becomes undeniable. On the graphs, the drought intervals, highlighted in red, align with the political history of the great Maya city-states. The initial drying trend in the 8th century coincides with increased warfare and the decline of southern lowland centers like Tikal and Copan. The most intense droughts of the 9th and 10th centuries line up precisely with the final abandonment of major cities like Karakol. The dates of the last carved monuments, a proxy for the power of the ruling elite, fall silent exactly when the rains failed most severely. This proves that the environmental stress of drought coincided directly with the timing of societal collapse. But could warfare, internal rebellion, or the breakdown of trade networks still be the primary cause? After all, these factors certainly existed. Maya society was never entirely peaceful, and political tensions were a constant reality. However, these social and political factors don't happen in a vacuum. The chemical record from the stalagmite is independent, continuous, and undisturbed. It is a record of the environment, not of human actions. It provides the background context in which all human drama played out. While kings fought and dynasties crumbled, the sky above them simply stopped delivering rain. The chemistry provides the ultimate cause, the external pressure that likely exacerbated every existing social, political, and military tension until the system broke. There are no myths here, no guesswork. The impacts of this failure would have been catastrophic. The Maya were masters of water management, but their civilization was built on the predictable rhythm of the wet season, which was essential for their maize-based agriculture. A single failed wet season would be a disaster. A second would be a crisis. But the key finding in the climate record is a continuous drought lasting about 13 years, the longest and most severe in the entire 2,000-year record, occurring right at the heart of the late Classic period. A 13-year wet season failure is an apocalypse. It devastates maize agriculture, rendering their sophisticated terrace and canal systems useless. It dries up the massive reservoirs that cities depended on. It shatters the complex trade networks that moved food and goods across the region. It would have led to widespread famine, disease, and a demographic collapse from which there was no recovery. The authority of the divine kings, who were seen as mediators with the gods to ensure agricultural fertility, would have evaporated along with the water. The evidence is clear, robust, and has been replicated. The data from this single rock, corroborated by archives from across the region, shows that repeated severe droughts were the primary driver of the classic Maya collapse. It was not a single event, but a series of climate shocks that pushed a sophisticated and resilient civilization past its breaking point. This is no longer a theory. It is proof, written in stone, layer by layer.
Deep in the remote forests of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, a landscape long thought to be pristine, untouched wilderness holds a profound secret. For centuries, this story of a complex and sophisticated past remained hidden, obscured by a dense canopy of trees and the quiet passage of time. Conventional archaeology, limited by what the eye can see on the ground, had only hinted at the true history buried here. But now, a revolutionary technology is allowing us to see through the forest, to peel back the layers of time and reveal a story that challenges our understanding of North America's pre-contact history. The key to unlocking this secret began with specialized drones, flying systematic missions over the unbroken forest. These weren't just capturing images, they were equipped with LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. The system works by firing millions of laser pulses per second towards the ground. By measuring the precise time it takes for these pulses to reflect off surfaces and return to the sensor, it can create an astonishingly detailed three-dimensional map of the landscape. While many pulses are reflected by the tree canopy, a significant number find their way through the leaves and branches to the forest floor. Sophisticated software then filters out all the returns from vegetation, digitally deforesting the landscape. What remained was not the random, undulating terrain of a wild forest. Instead, the LiDAR data stripped away the canopy and revealed clear, undeniable geometry. The data showed extensive networks of parallel berms, organized into repeating, right-angled grids. It revealed intricate drainage lines, purposefully engineered to channel water across the landscape. This was not nature. It was the unmistakable blueprint of a massive, ancient engineered farm complex. The evidence, locked in these digital models, proves the existence of large-scale Native American agriculture in this region, thriving nearly 1,000 years before the first European contact. This discovery fundamentally rewrites the history of the Great Lakes. To validate it, a multi-stage investigation was required, building an irrefutable case, piece by piece. Here is the chain of proof. First, the maps themselves provide the initial, powerful evidence. The high-resolution LiDAR returns show vast fields of raised beds, each measuring approximately 1 to 3 meters wide. These beds are not randomly placed. They are consistently spaced 5 to 8 meters apart, creating a rhythmic, organized pattern. They extend for hundreds of meters, sometimes even kilometers, conforming to the contours of the land while maintaining their structural integrity. Crucially, the system is integrated with a sophisticated water management network. The maps show interlinked ditches designed to route excess water away from the planting surfaces and into natural swales, preventing waterlogging in the wet northern climate. These are not glacial ripples or historic logging furrows, which have different morphological signatures. The pattern is consistently rectilinear, it is repetitive across vast areas, and it is intelligently organized across the slope. The sheer scale and geometric precision seen in the LiDAR data strongly indicated human design, but digital data alone is not enough. The next step was to verify these features on the ground. Second, the digs. Archaeologists conducted ground truthing by excavating test trenches directly through the berms. This allows for a cross-sectional view of their internal structure to see if they were natural or man-made. The trench walls immediately revealed a dark, rich, anthropogenic soil horizon, a layer created by human activity, overlying the lighter, sterile glacial subsoil. This Plagan soil is a classic signature of long-term cultivation and soil enrichment. Soil micromorphology, the microscopic analysis of the soil structure confirmed this was not a natural formation. The soil was mixed, aerated, and full of organic inputs. To quantify these observations, soil samples were sent for laboratory analysis. The lab measurements provided definitive chemical proof. Compared to the surrounding unmodified soil, the raised beds showed significantly elevated phosphorus, a key nutrient for crops and a direct indicator of added organic fertilizers. They also contained elevated calcium and countless ash microfragments, evidence of burning vegetation and adding the ash to improve soil fertility. Furthermore, the samples produced dramatic magnetic susceptibility spikes. This occurs when soil is repeatedly burned, a common practice in slash-and-burn agriculture or for clearing and fertilizing fields. Together, these are clear, unambiguous chemical signatures of intensive soil modification and fertilization by human hands. Third, the investigation established the age of the farms and what was grown there. Using accelerator mass spectrometry, or AMS radiocarbon dating, on charred plant remains found within the enriched soil, scientists obtained a precise timeline. The results consistently calibrate to a period between 950 and 1250 CE, placing this agricultural activity squarely in the late woodland period, a millennium ago. But what were they growing? Phytolith and macro-remain analyses, the study of microscopic plant silica and larger preserved plant parts, identified the crops. The evidence was conclusive: Zea mays or maize, Cucurbita, the family that includes squash, and Chenopodium, a nutritious grain-like seed. This is a classic trio of Native American agriculture. As a final check, stable carbon isotope analysis on the soil's organic matter confirmed a strong C4 signal. Most northern plants use a C3 photosynthetic pathway, but tropical grasses like maize use the C4 pathway, leaving a distinct isotopic signature. This C4 signal proves that maize was a dominant part of the plant life in these beds. The combination of dating and crop analysis proves active cultivation of staple crops a millennium ago. Fourth, the settlement context. Agriculture doesn't happen in a vacuum. It supports communities. Using the same LiDAR data, supplemented by on-the-ground survey, the team mapped the surrounding landscape for signs of habitation. They found them. The maps show clusters of house depressions, the archaeological footprints of dwellings located adjacent to the fields. They identified numerous storage pits, essential for preserving harvests to sustain the population through the long northern winters. They even mapped refuse areas, located a convenient walking distance from the fields and homes. The clear spatial relationship between the farm plots and the living spaces proves this was a planned, settled, and organized land use system. These are not random natural forms co-located by chance. They are components of a functioning agricultural society. Of course, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and skepticism is a vital part of the scientific process. Skeptics have reasonably pointed to other phenomena that can create linear ground features, such as natural beach ridges left by ancient shorelines, or historic plow lines from early European American farming. However, the evidence from this site refutes those alternatives. The farm system includes cross-cutting ditches that run perpendicular to the natural topography, something nature would not do. The beds show distinct terminations at headlands, unlike continuous natural ridges. And close inspection of excavated channels reveals preserved tool marks in the underlying clay, the signature of a human digging with simple instruments. Furthermore, historic plows pulled by draft animals create continuous arcing furrows over long distances. These fields are different. They are constructed as discrete, modular units, often with small gaps or gates to control water flow between them. The morphology is simply wrong for any of the proposed alternative explanations. To ensure the integrity of these findings, the methods and credibility of the research are paramount. Every photograph and measurement in the field and lab carries a visible scale bar for verification. The entire survey is anchored to a network of published GPS control points, allowing any other researcher to find these exact locations. The soil stratigraphy is meticulously photographed and documented. All laboratory protocols for AMS radiocarbon dating, for phytolith analysis, and for soil micromorphology are standardized and documented. Finally, the datasets and interpretations have been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals, where they have been scrutinized and validated by other experts in the field. The citations for these key studies are provided on screen. The project's limitations are also stated clearly. We report what is measured and what the data show. There is no speculation about population size, social structure, or beliefs. The focus remains on the empirical evidence. The broader significance of this discovery is immense. It demonstrates a level of indigenous engineering, landscape management, and agricultural intensification in the northern Great Lakes that was previously unknown and widely thought impossible. It forces a reevaluation of the carrying capacity of these northern lands and the complexity of the societies that inhabited them. This was not a world of scattered, small-scale foragers, but a landscape actively shaped and managed by sophisticated farmers. The conclusion, therefore, is direct and unavoidable. The combined evidence from LiDAR mapping, archaeological excavation, chemical analysis, and radiocarbon dating shows sophisticated raised bed agriculture, active water management, and large-scale organized landscapes in Michigan's Upper Peninsula 1,000 years ago. This work stands as a testament to the ingenuity of the region's indigenous ancestors, whose descendants, the Anishinaabe people, still live on this land today. It proves, without a doubt, that Native American farmers were the first to engineer these forests, creating a productive and sustainable world long before Europeans ever arrived.
In the heart of Bronze Age Europe, around the year 1500 BC, a profound transformation was underway. It wasn't a story written in texts or declared by kings, but one etched into the very fabric of life and death. For decades, archaeologists have pieced together a narrative of this period, a time of vibrant trade, complex societies, and constant movement. But a closer look, using the most advanced scientific tools available, reveals a pivotal moment, a quiet revolution that would reshape communities from the ground up. This isn't a story of conquest, but of cultivation. It begins not with a sword, but with a single, unassuming grain. To understand this shift, we must follow the evidence, line by line, starting with the most intimate record of all, the human skeleton. First, the bones. Buried for over 3 millennia, these remains are a biological archive. They don't just tell us about an individual's death, but about their life. Specifically, they record what they ate. The key lies in bone collagen, a protein that remodels throughout our lives, creating a dietary average of our last 10 to 15 years. By extracting this collagen in a clean lab environment, we can perform stable isotope analysis. We are, quite literally, what we eat. The atomic composition of our food becomes the atomic composition of our bodies. We focus on 2 key isotopic ratios, delta 13C or D13C and delta 15N or D15N. The D13C value in bone collagen tracks the types of plants at the base of the food web. Most plants native to temperate Europe, like wheat and barley, are C3 plants, which produce a lower D13C signature. But in the skeletal record from across Central Europe, after 1500 BC, the D13C values begin to rise significantly. Simultaneously, the D15N values, which indicate an organism's trophic level or position in the food chain, begin to narrow. Before this period, the population shows a wide range of D15N values, suggesting a diverse diet with varying amounts of animal protein. After 1500 BC, the range tightens, indicating that people were consuming a more uniform diet. The rising D13C proves a definitive shift toward the consumption of C4 plants. These are plants adapted to warmer, drier climates, like maize, sugarcane, or, crucially for Bronze Age Europe, millet. That C4 plant is Panicum miliaceum, or broomcorn millet. But isotopic data alone is just one piece of the puzzle. To confirm the what, we need to find the when. For that, we turn to archaeobotany, the study of ancient plant remains. Across numerous archaeological sites, flotation of soil samples yields vast quantities of charred plant material. Among the wheat and barley, a new grain appears in abundance. Charred Panicum millesimium grains, directly dated using accelerator mass spectrometry or AMS radiocarbon dating, begin to cluster overwhelmingly in archaeological layers dated to after 1500 BC. When we plot the frequency of these directly dated millet grains against the isotopic shift in human bones, the correlation is perfect. The two data sets lock together, matching the isotopes precisely. This proves that millet wasn't just a contaminant or background noise from a stray weed. Its appearance in dedicated storage pits, in pottery crusts, and in vast numbers tells a clear story. It became a staple food, a reliable, fast-growing, drought-resistant crop that fundamentally altered the Bronze Age menu. This dietary shift is the first pillar of our story. The second is about people. Second, mobility. The early Bronze Age was a period of intense human movement, but the evidence shows that as millet farming took hold, people began to stay put. We can measure this using three independent lines of evidence, again, starting from the skeleton. Strontium isotopes, specifically the 87Sr-86Sr ratio, act as a geological GPS. Strontium from bedrock enters the food chain through water and plants. As a child's tooth enamel forms, it locks in the strontium signature of the landscape where they grew up. Unlike bone, enamel does not remodel. It is a permanent record of childhood origin. Analysis of teeth from cemeteries before 1500 BC shows a wide range of strontium values, with many individuals clearly identifiable as non-local. After 1500 BC, the signatures converge, showing far fewer non-local individuals. The population became more homogeneous, more local. Oxygen isotopes from that same tooth enamel provide a cross-check. The D18O value is primarily influenced by the local climate and altitude of drinking water sources. Just like strontium, the oxygen isotope data shows a significant reduction in non-local signatures after 1500 BC. People were not just from the same geological region, but also from similar climatic zones. Finally, ancient DNA provides the ultimate confirmation. By sequencing genomes from individuals buried over hundreds of years, we can track genetic ancestry. Before 1500 BC, we see high haplotype turnover. New genetic variants are constantly being introduced into the population from outside groups. After 1500 BC, this turnover slows dramatically. The genetic profile of communities stabilizes generation after generation. Together, the strontium, oxygen, and DNA evidence prove conclusively that long-distance migration into these communities slowed to a trickle. The age of constant movement was giving way to an age of settlement. This leads to our third line of evidence. How did this new food change daily life? Third, food processing. Millet is a small, hard grain. It can't be eaten raw. It must be processed, typically by grinding it into flour to make porridge or bread. This new processing technique left a microscopic signature on the teeth of the people who ate it. Using high-powered microscopy, we can analyze dental microwear texture. On teeth from individuals living after 1500 BC, the surfaces become significantly flatter and less complex. Furthermore, the patterns of microscopic scratches change. The diet before 1500 BC created a mix of pits and scratches, typical of varied foodstuffs. The new diet created a pattern dominated by long, linear scratches. This pattern is consistent with eating foods containing abrasive particles. Specifically, it matches the wear produced by stone-ground, grit-rich porridges, the inevitable result of grinding millet on a stone quern. The evidence from the teeth perfectly matches the evidence from the toolkits found at these sites. Fourth, social structure. A fundamental change in diet, mobility, and daily activity should have a corresponding effect on society itself. We find this evidence in the way people treated their dead. In the earlier Bronze Age, burials often show stark inequality. A few princely graves are filled with exotic metals, intricate weapons, and amber beads, while the majority have very little. After 1500 BC, the grave goods diversify in type, but not in extreme value. Crucially, the distribution of these goods evens out across age and sex. Women and even children are now buried with modest but meaningful assemblages of pottery and bronze ornaments, items previously reserved for a select few. When we quantify this using statistical measures of inequality like the Gini coefficient, the results are unambiguous. Burial inventories, measured by both the count and material of grave goods, show a sharp drop in inequality indexes. This proves a shift toward looser, less pronounced social hierarchies. The extreme concentration of wealth and status appears to have dissipated, replaced by a more egalitarian social ethos. Fifth, settlements. This entire cascade of change is anchored on the ground in the very layout of the places people lived. The archaeological record of settlements provides the final decisive layer of proof. Site plans from this period expand. Hamlets grow into villages. The population wasn't just less mobile, it was growing and concentrating in larger, more permanent communities. To support these larger populations, new agricultural landscapes appear. We see the development of extensive outfields, pushing cultivation into lands previously considered marginal. The number and volume of underground storage pits increase dramatically. This signifies a new emphasis on surplus production and long-term storage, a buffer against lean seasons made possible by a reliable crop like millet. The tool assemblages found in these settlements shift. There is a marked increase in the number of bronze sickles, essential for harvesting grain. And, mirroring the dental microware, tool assemblages also shift toward a greater number of grinding stones, the essential equipment for processing the new staple crop. Crucially, detailed stratigraphic sequences and dendrochronology, tree ring dating of structural timbers from these sites, place all of these changes, the expansion, the new fields, the pits, the tools, squarely in the period immediately following 1500 BC. This proves a complete agricultural and social reorganization, with the adoption of millet farming at its very core. The evidence from 5 independent domains, biochemistry, archaeobotany, human geography, material culture, and settlement archaeology, all converge on a single coherent narrative. But in science, convergence is not enough. We must actively try to disprove the hypothesis. Skepticism check. Could a shift in climate, perhaps a period of increased aridity, explain the isotopic changes alone, without invoking millet? No. The D13C shifts in human collagen align perfectly with the appearance of millet macro remains in the archaeological record. Furthermore, the D13C shifts in animal collagen show the same pattern, proving that millet was integrated into the entire agricultural system, likely as fodder. Most importantly, these isotopic shifts do not match the local C3 plant baselines measured from charred nuts and seeds in the very same horizons. The signal is from a new, introduced plant, not a change in the local environment. Could the reduction in non-local signatures simply reflect a change in trade patterns, rather than a true reduction in human mobility? No. Strontium in tooth enamel records the geology of one's childhood landscape. It is a signal of where a person grew up, not where they traded. You can import bronze, but you cannot import your childhood geology. The data unequivocally points to reduced movement of people. Could the signal of decreasing social inequality be skewed by the exclusion of elite burials, or by focusing only on a few spectacular finds? No. The analyses are robust because we include full cemetery inventories, not just a handful of outliers. The pattern holds across hundreds of burials, from the most modest to the most well-appointed. The statistical variance in wealth distribution drops consistently across the entire population. Finally, the methods themselves are documented, transparent, and rigorously controlled. We use AMS radiocarbon dating on single grains to avoid inbuilt age. All collagen quality indices are reported to ensure against diagenetic alteration. Enamel 87SR, 86SR values are matched to high-resolution local geological and biosphere baselines. aDNA authenticity is confirmed via characteristic damage profiles and low contamination rates. And dental microwear is quantified by internationally recognized ISO surface metrics, removing subjective interpretation. These are not the findings of a single lab. Peer-reviewed datasets from dozens of studies, published in the world's top scientific journals by leading European research institutes, back each step of this argument. The data is verifiable. All study IDs, laboratory logs, and specimen dates referenced are listed on screen and in the description below. When taken together, the evidence is overwhelming. It shows a Bronze Age diet revolution with profound social consequences. Millet in, menus narrower, people moving less, power spread wider. This is not a theory. It is not a speculative story. It's the record, written in the chemistry of bone and the fabric of the earth, measured.
Beneath the bustling streets of modern York, a city layered with centuries of history, lies its Roman predecessor, Eboracum, a formidable northern fortress, a provincial capital, a place where emperors lived and died. For archaeologists, every excavation here is a conversation with the past, but sometimes the past speaks back with a voice so clear, so startling, it rewrites what we thought we knew. In a Roman-era cemetery, unearthed from the soil that has held its secrets for nearly 2 millennia, a single set of human remains has done just that. I'm looking at a skeleton that doesn't just tell a story of one person's life and death. It provides the first piece of irrefutable, physical proof for a brutal practice long confined to the pages of history books and the whispers of academic debate. This isn't just another burial. This is a cold case, one 800 years old, and the bones of a star witness. At first glance, it's the skeleton of a robust male, buried according to Roman customs. But a closer look reveals something profoundly violent. The story isn't in how he was buried, but in how he died. The evidence is etched directly into his bones, a series of deep, unusual puncture marks that demand explanation. To understand them, we must turn from archaeology to forensic science. The investigation begins with the trauma. On the humerus, the thick bone of the upper arm, we find not the clean cuts of a sword or the shattering impact of a blunt weapon, but something else entirely. These are deep conical punctures. The same pattern of damage appears again, with terrifying force on the pelvis. The placement of these injuries is not random. They suggest a frantic, desperate struggle. But what could inflict such specific, devastating wounds? The key lies in measurement. Precision is everything in forensics. The spacing between the main punctures measures approximately 34 millimeters. This is our first critical clue. It's the signature of the weapon that delivered the fatal blows. But this was no man-made weapon. Further analysis of the bone reveals microscopic crushing around the edges of the punctures and faint striations indicating drag. This is the classic signature of a powerful bite, the immense pressure of a predator's jaws closing and tearing. The morphology is consistent with the conical canines of a large carnivore. This immediately allows us to eliminate several suspects. Could it have been a wolf or one of the large, aggressive dogs known to the Romans? We compare the bite marks to their dentition. The canine spacing is far too narrow. The puncture pattern doesn't match. This proves the attacker wasn't a dog. What about a bear? Bears were certainly used in Roman arenas, but again, the dental evidence rules it out. A bear's bite is more of a crushing action, and the shape and arrangement of their teeth would produce a completely different type of fracture. The evidence on this skeleton is specific. Only one type of animal fits the profile. It was a large felid, a member of the cat family. The 34mm spacing points directly to the intercanine distance of a mature lion, or perhaps a leopard. The evidence was pointing towards a conclusion that was almost unbelievable for Roman Britain. This man was killed by a big cat. But an extraordinary claim requires extraordinary proof. Here's the chain of evidence, a meticulous process designed to ensure the conclusion is objective, testable, and scientifically sound. It began in the field. The York Archaeological Trust excavated and recorded the burial with full professional context. Every layer of soil, every associated object, every bone was photographed, scaled, and logged. This establishes provenance. We know exactly where it came from and that it hasn't been disturbed. Next, the bones were taken to the University of York's renowned BioArch labs. Here, non-invasive 3D laser scanning created perfect digital replicas of the bones and the bite marks. This technology allows us to analyze the trauma in minute detail without ever damaging the original specimen, and to share the data with experts anywhere in the world. The scans mapped the precise morphology of every puncture and fracture. With this digital data, the crucial comparative analysis could begin. The measurements were then compared against the definitive modern reference collections at the Natural History Museum in London. This isn't guesswork, it's a direct comparison with hundreds of specimens of known species. The match is conclusive. The big cat dentition fits the puncture spacing, the tooth shape, and the crushing force. The templates for wolf and dog do not. The science is unambiguous. But identifying the killer is only half the story. Who was the victim? The bones have more to tell us. A full skeletal analysis, a bone biography, reveals a life of violence and immense physical stress, long before the fatal encounter. The bone trauma analysis shows something else. This man was no stranger to injury. The left ulna, a bone in the forearm, has a clean, well-healed fracture. This type of injury, known as a parry fracture, is common in fighters, caused by raising an arm to block a blow. His ribs also show multiple remodeled impacts, evidence of severe non-fatal blows to the torso that he survived. The bone has knit itself back together, a silent testament to his resilience. Beyond specific injuries, his entire skeleton screams of a physically demanding life. There is significant vertebral wear, the kind of degeneration in the spine associated with years of carrying heavy loads or engaging in strenuous activity. Furthermore, the muscle attachments on his bones are exceptionally large and rugged. These are the points where tendons and ligaments anchor to the skeleton. Their enlarged state points to a body honed by years of repetitive, high-intensity training. This was not a laborer. This was an athlete, a professional fighter. This pattern of healed trauma and extreme physical conditioning proves a combat-hardened life, a life entirely consistent with that of a Roman gladiator. But there's a crucial piece of negative evidence. While he has a healed parry fracture, his forearms lack the numerous small, sharp force cuts you would expect from someone repeatedly parrying sword blades. This suggests his opponent wasn't typically armed with a sword. Instead, the fatal injuries are just catastrophic bites, delivered from low and awkward angles. This pattern is exactly what forensic experts would predict from a human fighting a large, four-legged predator in an arena setting, an animal lunging, clamping down, and pulling its victim to the ground. The context of the burial itself adds another vital layer of proof. This skeleton wasn't found in isolation. The burial sits among other Roman period interments, a significant number of which are also young, robust males, showing signs of violent combat trauma. This suggests a specific population group, set apart from the general citizenry. The site is securely dated by associated artifacts found in the graves, pottery, coins, personal items, and by stratigraphy, the analysis of the soil layers. These place the cemetery firmly in the 2nd to 3rd century CE, the height of the Roman Empire's presence in Britain. To understand more about his life, scientists performed stable isotope analysis on a small sample of his bone. This remarkable technique analyzes the chemical ratios of elements like carbon and nitrogen that accumulate in the body from food and water. It can tell us about a person's diet and even where they grew up, The results were telling. They confirm a diet exceptionally high in protein, far different from the grain-based diet of a typical subsistence laborer or farmer of the period. This was the specialized, high-energy diet of someone whose body was their livelihood, an arena fighter. To ensure the scientific rigor of the conclusion, every step was checked against established public knowledge. When the bite mark templates created from the 3D scans are overlaid not just with museum specimens but with published reference patterns from peer-reviewed comparative datasets available in open-access zoo archaeology journals, the fit is exact. This isn't a subjective opinion, it's a replicable, verifiable scientific conclusion. The methodology is transparent and the data is clear. Any researcher can follow the same steps and arrive at the same result. So the verdict is direct and testable. This skeleton is the first definitive archaeological proof ever found in Roman Britain of a human locked in mortal combat with a big cat. He was a bestiarius, one of the specialized gladiators who fought wild animals in the arena. He was not a random victim of an escaped animal or a criminal executed by being thrown to the beasts, a practice known as his healed wounds, his powerful physique, and his high-protein diet all point to a trained professional combatant. The bones, the measurements, the healed wounds, the burial context, the chemical signature of his diet, every single line of data converges on this one powerful conclusion. There are no contradictions. For centuries, our knowledge of these brutal spectacles in the northern provinces has come from scattered references in ancient texts and artistic depictions. We knew the Romans brought their blood sports with them to the frontiers of the empire, but written accounts can be exaggerated, and art can be symbolic. This skeleton changes everything. It grounds the stories in physical reality. Ancient texts described beast fights. This proves they happened here in York, and this particular fighter was skilled and resilient enough to survive many of them until the day his luck finally ran out. This bone, this man, is the silent proof.